Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening once again, everyone. It's the Ancient One here, the Bachelor Supreme, he who remains, the Phantom Menace, the master of the deceptive arts, and the voice of the vasectomites. I'm back again with another video, and we'll be looking at yet another article today. This article is entitled Red Flags in Relationships, What to Look For and How to Respond. And so today I'd like to talk about, what are red flags, and why red flags aren't really red flags. And what I mean by that is, as you can see on the video, rather on the screen, I state here that red flags are in fact the norm in dating rather than the anomaly, right? So they are in fact what you go into and what you're going to get when you're in a relationship. So you might not get all the various different kinds, but you're going to get most of them. In the article that we're going to read today, they depict 16 red flags. And so we're going to go through that article and look at each one. And I intend to demonstrate that these are in fact features of relationships rather than something abnormal or outside of what you can expect realistically. What in fact prompted me to make this video is, other than just seeking content, I'm really at a point now, right in the early days, where I'm doing things that inspire me and motivate me, trying to purify and clarify my message, even though I think it's quite pure in its original form. Get a vasectomy. That's never going to change, right? But in the process of discussing human dynamics, of course, comparing those dynamics to how benders would deal with them, and how vasectomites would deal with them, right? So I'm really looking into things that will motivate me, and I hope inspire you to get a vasectomy, right? So I was watching a video with this young man, and I really pretty much watched half of it, if I have to be honest, because he started to be a little bit repetitive in his own message, but also in that he was repeating a very popular online message that we've all seen and heard before, right? So, indeed, I stopped watching it, but then I watched it again in order to make this video. Effectively, this young man in his 30s, 35, I think he said he was 35 or 36, he was giving dating advice, right? And it was really the normal advice, and it was good advice. It wasn't bad advice, but it was standard advice, right? And with standard advice, you're going to get a standard outcome, right? So he was saying things like how you need to improve yourself, how you need to get back in the gym. Of course, get in the gym and stay in the gym, guys. Stop getting out of the gym, right? Even if you're tired, just go. A little bit of exercise is better than no exercise. how you need to get your money up, how you need to start doing your overtime every time. We talked about that, overtime, extra time, every time. This is the bachelor way, right? How you need to be improving your mental health, right? Get a philosophy that works for you, that you can believe in, that can uphold your standards. And then when you've done that, hopefully you can attract the right partner. Now, he said the right partner and not the best partner. So, what that indicated to me was that he was looking for someone who was a good fit for him, right? Somebody who he could complement and could complement him. He was looking for a perfect match, something that, quite frankly, you're not gonna find, right? You're not gonna find it, man. And this is something that I'm gonna demonstrate, and this article is gonna demonstrate to you. We have to look at these relationships and these marriages realistically. No more fairy tales. These fairy tales really have brought devastation to humanity, right? And the prognosticator discussed this in one of his edifications, where he discussed really how the romance industry, which is fueling the romance war, making you believe something, right, that is quite frankly impossible, right? And if it was possible, it would be expensive, you know? So, these dangers are real, and young men like this man that I was watching, you could tell there was a frustration in him because there's reality and then he has this high expectation of reality and it's just unattainable even for himself, right? So while he was giving the standard knee bending advice, he went on to talk about red flags. And I thought to myself, what exactly is this word red flag? What does that mean, right? So, of course, we're going to define that, but I had a definition myself. It was really an academic definition of red flag with a little bit of some historical context. I appreciated the insight. But then when I found this article, I found that they gave quite a concise definition of red flag. So we will use their definition and then see if these red flags that they describe are anomalies or in fact they are what relationships are. This is what it's meant to be. So they do provide that clarity and they provide it early on, right? Then it'll show the behaviors that constitutes these red flags, and this is what makes this article by Shelley Lewin. Forgive me if I mispronounce people's names wrong. Many of the articles I read, they come from all over the world with very difficult names, or not difficult as such, but unfamiliar names to me. So my pronunciation of them might be a little bit off, but I do intend to give credit to every author. Whether or not I agree with your words, right? I just appreciate the effort. So I did come across many articles, right? And it wasn't just the one article that I read, but this one was one of the better ones, right? And after acquiring a bit of understanding, I asked the further question, and I've been asking this question all along. What's the difference, right? What's the difference between a red flag, a bad relationship, and a normal relationship, right? Because these behaviors are what you find standard in relationships, which is why I really call relationships romance wars. You come into this thing and you make a commitment to the person, and all you do is you fight with that person to maintain that commitment, you know? So, and what I will demonstrate from this article is that red flags are really not an anomaly, but rather they are a feature in the romance wars, right? They are the standard feature of the romance wars, right? But before I do, I want to just talk about this video once more, right? Something that I noticed about the young man's demeanor in the video, right? Now, he lacked a bit of confidence when he was expressing himself. This could very well be, that he was camera shy. Maybe he's young and still coming into his own, building a new channel. But his channel has like, thousands of viewers. The video had, I think, over 10,000 views, right? And like 7,000 likes or something like that. So, you know, but still, there's really no saying how fast one will mature in front of a camera, right? It could also just be that it was his own personality and his own style coming through. But I did sense a lack of confidence, and I think he had a lack of faith in his message. He was giving what some might call a philosophy, a manosphere philosophy, MGTOW philosophy, red pill philosophy, even a philosophy that tries to maintain the myth of alpha masculinity, right? And knowing where all these philosophies ended, or rather the philosophers that were preaching these philosophies, knowing that they had set these boundaries and these standards, and all ended up married with children, or unmarried with children, or stepfathers, or they were baby daddies, the infamous, notorious baby daddies. But whatever their situation was, it didn't end up as how they had intended it to go. Nothing ended up the way they intended it to go. Online, on the internet, which to me has become the digital collective consciousness of humanity, right? There was a time when we were just receiving information from the internet, but now we are feeding the internet almost on a daily basis with our own consciousness and ideas and beliefs, right? But we've seen where this philosophy ends, right? Where these ideas end. And they end in exactly the same place that all other philosophies end. You end up paying bills, paying for a wife or a spouse or a partner or a girlfriend or a baby mama. You end up supporting a household, whether you live in that household or not. And if you don't, it's two households. It's always a catastrophe. And he lacked confidence in that, right? Even though you could tell that what he wanted to do was make a positive impact and his message was meant to be inspiring. But his lack of confidence, his lack of faith in the execution could not be overlooked, right? But when you don't have the screen presence, right, your words can lack the emphasis, right, that you are trying to bring across. But also knowing, and I say keep the end in mind, knowing where you're going with this, that you're going to end up in a relationship with the types of features that I'm describing here, I think is a little bit heartbreaking for a lot of young men, because all you are doing, quite frankly, is delaying the inevitable, right? So the problem is with this message is that it always leads you back to the counterpart, right? So he describes the process like, you make money, you go to the gym, you get your mental health right, you shape yourself, and then you shape your life to be what you want it to be. And what he said was that life that he was shaping was the type of life that could accommodate a counterpart that would be a complement to that life, which is a bit of a contradiction. You're building a life for yourself, for a counterpart to be a complement, an additional, a benefit, a beneficial addition, complement to the life that you are building for the counterpart. It's a bit of a contradiction, right? But then you find that counterpart, and you believe that they who has had a completely different, not just opposite, but just different reality for 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades in your absence. And you believe that they will fit into the image that you have of what success is in your mind, regardless of how they define success, right? I mean, right here, right there is where he paused in the video, and I believe the reality of his uncertainty hit him, right? Then he said something like, "Oh, but it'll be hard, right? It'll be difficult, it'll be challenging, right?" He said, find a woman that is the right fit for you can be challenging in the current environment of the romance wars. Can be challenging? It can be challenging. Absurd. You are not going to find a person that is a perfect fit for what you imagine success to be, right? And this is the male delusion, right? You are looking for a Puritan woman with no debt, no history, no intimate life, right? To come into your life and be magnificent in that situation where, quite frankly, if you ask me, the counterpart hasn't been magnificent in anything. There's no history of any counterpart demonstrating magnificence in any way, shape, or form. And this is what you're asking for. And then be disappointed when that delusion doesn't manifest itself into reality. So then I thought, what do I consider red flags, right? What to me would be something that if I saw it instantly, I would know this not a good situation, right? This is not going to work out for me, right? And I thought long and hard, and I mean, it could be, a bad attitude or a bad mood, but bad things happen in life, right? That cause people to feel bad. So you can't say that somebody who's in a bad mood or is feeling down today for whatever their reasons is an indication of a red flag, right? We need something more tangible, right? So I came up with two red flags. The first one is people who say red flag or people who use the word red flag. If you are familiar with the sort of circumstances that I will be describing or will be reading in this article, and you know them well enough to be able to identify them just through observation, and no proof, no behavior, just by looking at somebody sitting there, you can say, oh, that's a red flag, that's a red flag, that's a red flag. Then you are a red flag. Then you must have been identified yourself as a red flag, because you are either very familiar, or you participate, or know someone who has participated in these types of activities. So you have to be a red flag. The second one has to be the smartphone. A smartphone has to be the absolute ultimate red flag. And I have two of them. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't exhibit any of these traits, but as a vasectomite, I saw a little bit of myself too in this article. But when it comes to the smartphone, this is where all the modern world's ills and deplorables and deformity, all of the problems that you could ever think of that exist in human consciousness are exhibited in the smartphone. You will find it all in there, right? Everything you want to know and don't want to know about people, and everything that you don't want them to know about you, can absolutely be found in a smartphone, right? I myself, which is why I'm hiding my face so I can expose my tactics and not myself. I have one that is explicitly and exclusively for work, and then I have another one for all other things. The people at work don't know what is existing on the other phone, and the people who are familiar with the other phone, the ancient phone, don't know what is existing in my work phone, right? Like, the two things never collide, right? Infinite amount of my information is on both phones, right? And to some extent, it does cross over, but I do my best to keep them completely separated. Most people do not. Most people have one device, and all their information is on that device, right? So, indeed, this is where and how the seed of infidelity is planted, where it blossoms, where it blooms, and where it grows fertily, right? I cannot tell you just the number of people that you are exposed to on a daily basis, and you can simply tag them in there and they will respond to you. People that you think are completely outside of your sphere of reality are so easily accessible. You can bring yourself into close physical contact with almost any living being on this planet, as long as they have connected themselves to a smartphone, which almost everyone has, and that smartphone is connected to the internet. You have access to them, they have access to you, and everyone has access to everyone, right? And you know the feeling, right? You know the feeling that I'm about to describe when you're having a face-to-face interaction with someone, a conversation, and they are texting somebody else, right? Or they are getting a text from somebody else. Now, if you're with your counterpart and they're getting a text from somebody else, or you're sleeping, you're in bed, it's the middle of the night, and your counterpart gets a call from somebody else in the wee hours of the night, in the wee hours of the morning, right? And you think to yourself, but I am the counterpart's partner, right? I'm your partner and I'm with you. So who is calling you? Who is texting you? Who is sending notifications? And in truth, it could be anyone from anywhere, right? And this will induce paranoia in you, because you know that you have the same access. You've sent the same indication, right? So you've liked or commented instinctively on another person's post, right? Whether it was to indicate nonchalance, so you don't care, or whether it was to indicate positivity or disapproval, or to create an inquisitive statement to ask a question, right? You've done it. And other people are doing it with and for her. In fact, there are men who admittedly send 100 DMs every day before breakfast in order to get three messages, one message, right? So it stands to reason that with billions of people on smartphones, your counterpart could easily be getting 50, 20, 10 messages a day from various places, various platforms, various websites, various apps in various different locations all over the world. The smartphone is easily and by far the single greatest red flag in human history, right? And you cannot overlook that. You can't say, well, I'm going to get into a relationship with a woman that has a smartphone and she's going to be all mine. Or I'm going to be with a man, we're going to make it work, we're going to build a family, and he's going to be all mine. Absolutely not. It's only a matter of time before somebody comments on their picture and they respond with a thank you. And that's enough. That is enough to plant the seed of infidelity, right? And the other thing is that if you do look into a counterpart's device, right, you know what you're going to find is at some point is going to repel you, right? If it's not infidelity from, or attention from other men, it's going to be indications of some type of behavior maybe that you don't agree with, whether it's addiction, whether it's debt or disrespect for you. So whether it's somebody disrespecting you and she's not correcting that person, or she's the one disrespecting you to somebody, right? But you're going to find something in there that you don't like, right? Guaranteed. No matter what she says to your face, you always know that there is another set or a plethora of activities that's happening on her device, of which, quite frankly, you know nothing about, right? There are relationships she has with people, male or female, close or far, foreign or domestic, that you don't even know exist, that you have no idea and you couldn't fathom. You'd be asking yourself, how do you know this person, right? And she'll tell you, oh, we met online, which is very common, right? It is the easiest way to meet people nowadays, online, right? It's harder to meet people in person, and the reason for that is that the people that you meet online and the people that will be listening to these videos and following this programming are people who are in some way or form gonna share something in common with you. So you don't have to try and find that common thread between you. You've already established that before you meet in person. It makes it so easy. And if somebody doesn't approve of you or rejects you, you know, you can absorb that so much easier. You could just move on to the next DM, which is one click away, right? So it's a very convenient way to of human interaction and to perceive human consciousness, right? But it's also a very dangerous tool. It is the ultimate spying tool in human history, right? If you want to know somebody, just find their platform. You want to know what the ancient one thinks? Just watch these videos. And even though I may have fake elements, you can't fake the whole thing. There's a point where you have to be real. and you have to be honest, right? And your message has to shine through in every video. And that's why I say get a vasectomy before you look on her phone. Get a vasectomy and then go find out what the truth is, because it will shock you, right? So let's have a look at this article: red flags in relationships, what to look for and how to respond. It was written in 2004. I beg your pardon, 2024, not very long ago, 6, 7 months ago, by Shelley Lewin, and we read it now. She writes, "What are red flags in a relationship? Red flags are warning signs that indicate unhealthy or manipulative behavior. They are not always recognizable at first, which is part of what makes them so dangerous. However, they tend to grow bigger and become more problematic over time." I don't agree. I think they are quite predictable, and not only predictable, they are just standard behavior in relationships. You just tolerate them more in the beginning and less at the end, but they are always there. Red flags, she continues, are often used in conversations around toxic or abusive relationships. Toxicity can present itself in any close relationship: friends, colleagues, family members, or partners. Red flags in a guy or girl can be signs of narcissism, aggression, victimization, or even abusive behavior. By becoming aware of some common red flags, you can avoid getting involved in a toxic relationship. She says, when you encounter relationship red flags, it's a good time to pause and reflect on the dynamic you really share with that person. Often, toxic behavior is subtle and insidious. It creeps up on us in moments of weakness, and if we cannot fight against it, it can take control over our lives. This can lead to both ourselves and those around us getting hurt. Cultivating self awareness around red flags and toxic behavior can help us avoid them altogether. What are examples of red flags? So now we're going to get into it. So we've just defined it, so let's continue. Red flags in relationships are warning signs that indicate unhealthy or manipulative behavior. We've said that before. Examples include controlling behavior, lack of respect, love bombing, and emotional or physical abuse. Lack of respect, love bombing. I want us to keep those words in mind for a future contradiction that I will demonstrate and expose. These behaviors, she continues, may start subtly but tend to become more problematic over time, potentially leading to toxic dynamics. 16 red flags in a relationship to look out for. Before you can address red flags, you need to understand what they look like and why they are dangerous. Let's look at 16 common red flags in men, women, and non-binary individuals that can arise in any relationship. I'm not even going to address that. By learning what they look like and what they by learning what they look like and why they are harmful, you can put an end to toxicity before too much damage is done. The first one, overly controlling behavior. Now, I believe that both the counterpart and the knee bender and the bachelor, the husband, they control each other and manipulate each other continuously throughout the relationship. But overly controlling behavior is a common red flag in relationships. People that try to control our movements, decisions, or beliefs are more concerned about what they want than what is best for you. If a guy or girl tries to control what you wear, where you go, or where you go, this could be a red flag. I mean, isn't that just standard behavior in relationships? People telling us, oh, we're going to go here, we're going to do this, I've planned this trip for us. A date in itself. I'm taking you to this place, we're going to do this activity, this is what I've planned, this is what we're doing. Isn't that what is described here? Right? If a guy or girl tries to control what you wear or where you go, right? Your movements, your decisions, or your beliefs, right? These are red flags. She continues, in a healthy relationship, oh, here we go. There is compromise and understanding around differences in personal needs and preferences. This is why you should just be dating people you share things in common with, rather than having to try force people to fit into that dynamic that you think is possible, your own personal delusion of success, right? Allowing space for each person to be their true, authentic self is a sign of health, whilst wanting to control another, control wanting to control another is a red flag. Okay, yeah. There is a bit of a grammatical error there, but still, right? Wanting to control other people, she says, is a red flag. The bachelor life stands for autonomy, freedom, liberty, tranquility, unity of one's mind, body, and spirit within yourself, right? The last thing we want is for someone to tell us what to believe, what to think, where to go. And this is really the reason why many outstanding bachelors just don't get into these relationships anymore, right? It's just because that's what you walk into. Control, overly controlling behavior. Number two is lack of respect or trust. Now, you're definitely going to get disrespected and accused in every relationship. I think about the guy that made them wear tutus, those guys, and Spider-Man costumes and all kinds of things, right? It says here, trust is an important foundation in any healthy relationship, which is why being trustworthy and being trusted is critical to relationship health. A major sign of an unstable relationship is when partners, friends, colleagues, or family members distrust you, especially when you have demonstrated your trustworthiness. Now, that's a contradiction. So, you've demonstrated that you are trustworthy, but your friends, your colleagues, your family members distrust you still. That may mean that they are untrustworthy. I say trust no one, not even yourself, and definitely don't trust your eyes. They will deceive you. That's why you need to get a vasectomy and protect yourself against yourself. Your competition in this romance war is not going to be the counterpart or the knee bender. In truth, it's going to be evolution. How your life will evolve over time, right? Are you going to be folding those towels? You going to be a towel folder? You going to be a knee bender? Or are you going to be a vasectomite and stand proud? It says here, earning trust by being consistently reliable, honest, and accountable is your part of the equation. If distrust still remains, it can be a red flag. Healthy relationships require trust and respect on both sides. Without respect, the foundation of any relationship is shaky at best. Let me tell you something about this counterpart. The counterpart respects nothing. I told you these people have no limit and they have no bottom. The counterpart doesn't even respect their own father. If you think you're going to earn respect by upholding alpha masculinity, I'm here to tell you, she's going to put you in a tutu. She will put you in a tutu and a Santa Claus costume every single year of your miserable life. I assure you, you are not going to get respect from a counterpart. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do you want to wear a tutu, my friend? You go out there with the delusion that you can earn respect from a counterpart and that she will uphold that respect, and I promise you absolute misery. Number three is lack of emotional support. The people closest to you should build you up, not break you down. When you love someone, you are committed to supporting and uplifting them. If you do not feel that support from your partner, family, or friends, something needs to change. Kid a vasectomy. Guys, the number one complaint that many men have as relationships break down and end is that, and the one mistake that they all say they made is that they opened up to their partner and were mocked for it and were seen as weak for it. And in fact, the information that they divulged was later thrown back into their face as an insult, right? I told you the counterpart respects nothing. If you are expecting empathy from them, right? In truth, the counterpart may not even like their own children. I'm going to go as far as saying that, right? They will happily use their children to whip you and punish you and then induce failure in their children just to demonstrate that you are a failed man. And no matter what you do to try and raise up those children, they'll just keep tearing them down. And you'll be surprised, like, why are my children not advancing in the way that I want or that I'm investing in? It's because you have a counterpart in your life. I don't see how divorce is so high if emotional support is even available in these relationships, right? I mean, wouldn't you stay just for the emotional support alone? I, for one, no. Number four, physical, mental, or emotional abuse. Physical, emotional, and mental abuse are undeniable red flags in any relationships. So these are things like insults, right? Being insulted, somebody talking about you bad, lies, those kinds of things. So, not just the physical, but also the mental and the emotional. Physical abuse is easier to pick up on, of course, but emotional and mental abuse can be just as damaging in the long run. Think about who speaks the most in relationships and who says the most bad things. The one who talks the most is the one who's going to end up saying the most bad things. Absolutely. And then they'll turn around and say it's a joke. And just like physical abuse, mental and emotional abuse can cause post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Nobody ever has the right to use you as a scapegoat for their own problems. Now imagine that. How many men have been used as scapegoats in relationships? Huh, all the time. All the time. Those should be dealt with constructively and fairly. Abuse is never an acceptable response to a problem. It is not an acceptable response, but it is a common occurrence in relationships. So, again, the point that I'm trying to prove here is while these behaviors are extreme, these behaviors are absolutely common in relationships. You find these in every single relationship all the time. There's somebody who's not being supported. There's somebody who is distrustful. There's somebody who is abusive or neglectful, right? Somebody who's controlling, right? These are all standard behaviors in relationships. And they make them sound like there is an alternative. And I'm here to tell you they're not. If you get into a relationship, this is exactly what you're going to find. And it's not that these things come later. These things have always been there, but your tolerance for them. That's what changes, right? You get less tolerant of this nonsense and more aware for when you see it, you just call it out quickly. Number five is substance abuse, right? So this is very prevalent in modern relationships. Substance abuse is a clear red flag. It indicates that a person struggles with impulse control and self destructive habits. Depending on the substance, any relationship can quickly turn toxic if addiction is present. So, alcohol, right? If you drink alcohol in the home, that's a problem, right? If you keep alcohol in the home, that's going to be a problem, right? But then if you have to go out to drink alcohol, that's a bigger problem because now you have to drive drunk. So, but wherever there's alcohol, you can absolutely be sure to find other things: tobacco, vaporizing, and a myriad of other drugs, illicit substances, I beg your pardon. With that said, substance abuse is an illness, and your loved one is an illness that you volunteer for. That's what they don't tell you. And your loved one might need help. If you or someone you know is struggling, reach out to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, SAMHAHSA. Yeah, they need to abbreviate that better for help. You must remember that substance abuse, while it's an illness and a disease classified as such, it's one that you volunteer for. It's not hereditary, right? So you didn't get it from your parents like diabetes and other ones. You don't know that you'll be addicted to a substance until you take that substance, right? So the initial choice is yours. The consequences, that's the illness. That's what needs to be cured. But the first instinct, you started it. That's why the best choice is just to abstain from all substances. Number 6 is narcissistic behavior. I'll admit that I suffer from this. I'm an absolute narcissist. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental condition that indicates self obsession, bachelor for life, and a misplaced sense of importance, bachelor supreme. It can come across as delusional or grandeur, although not in clinical sense. The master of the deceptive arts, they are not experiencing a break from reality, although it might feel that way to the people close to them. That is true. Narcissists believe that the world revolves around them. Indeed, it can, but not always, which can be frustrating. And if anybody threatens this belief, turmoil and chaos tend to follow. Self before society. Being emotionally involved with a narcissist, ego driven person can be exhausting and traumatizing. The master of the deceptive arts. Their needs will always be considered more important than yours. Self before society. Number 7, anger management issues. If someone you are close to has anger management issues, you might feel threatened or unsafe during a conflict. This is very true. People with anger management issues will lack self control, and their bodies will do things that they will later regret, right? Or maybe they may come from violent backgrounds and associate violence with problem solving. This is why you don't beat children, because it turns them into criminals, right? If you're wondering why schools removed corporal punishment and governments insist that you don't hit your children and they'll arrest you for it, is because if you're struggling with a child and you hit them and they stop, they associate violence with problem solving. So later, when they're struggling with other people, they may hurt those people inadvertently, thinking that they're fixing a problem. Lack of emotional regulation is a definite red flag for any relationship. This is true. We all should feel comfortable enough with our partner or friend to tackle difficult subjects without fearing our safety. Depends on the subject. It depends on the subject. You know what I mean? Anyone, man or woman, who uses anger as an intimidation tactic is displaying toxic behavior. Anger is an intimidation tactic. It is the ultimate intimidation tactic. You know, don't make me angry, right? This implies that anger comes with consequences, right? It's a very useful tool, but when you associate, so it indicates disapproval if done with self control. When done with violence, it can be catastrophic. So if you indicate to someone that something is upsetting to you by showing anger, but having restraint in that anger, that can be efficacious. Otherwise, if your anger boils over into violence, you're going to jail. You're breaking the law, you're going to jail. Number 8 is codependency. Codependency and the ensuing emotional labor might not always present itself as toxic, but codependency in relationships can be a pervasive pattern that causes issues such as emotional exhaustion and increasing mental load. In other words, you can be annoying, right? Emotional exhaustion means that you are annoying. So, but codependency is what relationships are. You depend on each other for various things, including intimacy, right? So it's not a flaw, but it's a feature of what relationships are. Codependency or relationship addiction, well, you know what I mean? Isn't everyone addicted to relationships, right? The fact that you keep looking for another relationship after you get into a relationship, I mean, it's a 99% addiction, right? It happens when two people rely on each other exclusively for emotional, psychological, and even physical support. This alienates them from their other relationships and can stunt personal growth. I mean, that's what a relationship is. All of these are just standard relationship moves, right? This is what it is. It's part of the definition, part of the act, right? It's unavoidable. Number 9, conflict avoidance. So, on the one hand, you're dealing with conflict, things that make you angry, but on the other hand, you don't deal with the conflict. Isn't that just what happens in a relationship? Every time we talk about your baby daddy, we fight. Every time we talk about money, we fight. Every time we talk about your spending, we fight, right? So we stop fighting. People who avoid conflict might think that they are protecting their relationship from ruin. In the long run, conflict avoidance results in issues not being addressed and resolved. In other words, resentment, which can lead to, there we go, resentment and passive aggressive behavior, right? The silent treatment, right? Coming home and she's eating and not having your dinner ready, right? Those kinds of things. Putting you in a tutu, right? Making you wear a Santa Claus costume, right? Conflict avoidance. As uncomfortable as it can be, embracing constructive conflict, or now the conflict has to be constructive. So you fight to build, is a crucial element of all relationships. Without productive conflict, serious matters can never be resolved. This can lead to resentment and wasted energy. Isn't that what I've been saying? You are wasting your time with these relationships. You are wasting your time with these relationships. This is really what it's about. Oh, number 10, constant jealousy. If you have a counterpart and you tell her that you're getting promoted and she's not, it is natural to feel jealous. You see that statement? It is natural to feel jealous. This is the counterpart's natural state. This is their natural state. It is natural to feel jealous when your partner or friend is spending a lot of time with others or when they succeed and you don't. However, that is not an excuse to let it cloud your judgment. Really. Have you met the counterpart? Someone who is constantly jealous of your connection with others cares more about what they want than your happiness. So if you're streaming all the time and she wants you to spend time with her, you're playing video games all the time, she wants you to spend time with her, you're reading, she wants you to spend time with her, you're enjoying a delightful game of chess, she wants you to spend time with her, jealousy, right? You start working harder at work, your company starts to depend on you more, giving you more responsibilities for future growth, right? You got to pay those dues. You got to pay those dues, right? You got to earn your place, right? You get promoted, she's going to get jealous. This jealousy often leads to manipulative tactics like the tutu and other unhealthy behaviors. So many other unhealthy behaviors. Oh, this article is killing it. This is what relationships are. This is what really happens in your relationship every single day. And you can't deny that. You can't deny that, right? You've had some or all of these, at least at some point in your relationship, men and women, right? Men and women. Let's continue. 11. Gaslighting. It says, gaslighting is a common manipulation tactic and a red flag in any relationship. It is an insidious form of emotional abuse in which the manipulator will make you question your sanity or judgment, right? I talked earlier about when you see those phone calls coming in and those texts coming in and those notifications and those DMs and those WhatsApps and those messengers, right? And on, the various emails and various communication forms all coming in at her, and you know it's not the same guy because it's one person has email, one person has that, one person has text, one person has DMs, one person has WhatsApp, and they are making you think that you are crazy for seeing those things and responding to them, making you question your own sanity and your own judgment. This sounds just like the counterpart. Sounds just like the counterpart. Victims of gaslighting, you, are made to feel guilty regardless of whether or not, I beg your pardon, they did anything wrong. Gaslighting is a clear red flag in any relationship, and it happens every single day. Have you ever been made to feel guilty for noticing that somebody did something wrong? Instead of them feeling sorry that they did something wrong, now you must apologize for catching them committing a crime or doing something. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's reverse psychology. That's what they call that, right? We called that in the ancient times reverse psychology, where you turn it back onto me and make it seem like I'm the problem. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. No, it's not. It's not. You messed up and you need to come right. Number 12, lack of emotional intelligence. I have a problem with this word or this phrase, emotional intelligence. They say here, it is the ability to perceive and manage emotions. To perceive and manage emotions. If somebody's not saying anything, this is why I have a problem with body language. How am I supposed to know that your silence indicates anger? Because my silence usually indicates focus. In fact, when I am silent, it's because I am working. But during my leisure, I will let documentaries, videos, music play if I'm so inclined, right? So, how am I supposed to know that if you are walking quickly, you are upset and not late, right? What does that mean? How can one be emotional and intelligent at the same time? It's a contradiction, right? People with a low level of emotional intelligence are unable to pick up on your feelings or empathize with you. How? How are we supposed to pick up on feelings? Feelings are not an expression. Words are an expression. You express your words. There's only two ways to express words. It's verbally and in writing, right? You tell people or you write it down and they read it, right? But you can't act out emotions. That's not a real thing. That's not a real thing. That comes from the art world, right? Of performance art, where they can't tell you what's happening. They have to display with extravagant actions, right? Rolling on the floor, jumping in the air, punching the air triumphantly. Extravagant actions to indicate what is happening, right? But then they also have music to support that. So fast racing drum beats, right, will indicate danger, where classical music might indicate calmness, right? And the person will act according to what the music dictates. This is how performance art does it. It doesn't work in your home. It doesn't work when you walk out of the kitchen and go and sit down and watch TV, and I'm supposed to know that the way you walked from the kitchen indicates that you're upset about the argument we had 3 weeks ago about teaspoons. Madness. Madness. It continues. This often results in unnecessary conflicts or forms of manipulation. Emotional abuse includes love bombing, excessive display of affection, attention, and gifts early in a relationship, often with the intent of gaining control or creating dependency. Often stem from low emotional intelligence. It concludes. Excessive displays of affection, attention, and gifts early in relationships. Isn't that what dating is? Isn't that literally the definition of dating? Taking someone out, paying. That's really what dating is, right? So now dating is a lack of emotional intelligence, right? But that's what the relationship is. That's what relationships are. Number 13, social isolation. For many of us, our family and friends provide an important sense of community. It's a major red flag if someone in your life is negatively affecting your relationship with those you love. This is what a relationship is. You move away from your friends and family to be occupied with this person. Isn't that what a relationship is? So, how is that a red flag? So, relationships themselves, by this definition, are red flags. Healthy relationships should never come at the cost of other healthy relationships. What? That's a contradiction. If you are trying, okay, let's start at the beginning here. A relationship is for somebody who wants to find a life partner to spend their life with, right? How are you in a healthy relationship with somebody that you're spending your life with if you're in other healthy relationships, thereby spending your life with other people? This is a contradiction. And this is the problem with relationships, right? You're trying to be exclusive, but not all the way 100% exclusive, but you're trying to get the other person to be 100% exclusive, but it's a contradiction. And it causes problems and conflicts, which is what this indicates. All this article has displayed is various different types of conflicts and how they will affect you and your life. So relationships are conflictive, you know. They are in fact a war, I believe, the romance war, and that's what this displays. This is the romance wars. 14. Lack of desire to communicate openly. One red flag in a guy or girl can be the lack of desire to communicate openly. Communication does not come easily for everyone, and a core skill in having a co-creative a healthy, sorry, I beg your pardon, and a core skill in having and co-creating a healthy relationship is the desire to articulate your emotions, your needs, and dissatisfaction, right? So This, I think, goes along with the silent treatment that we discussed, right? So if somebody's not talking to you, does that mean that there's a problem? And then if you tell them, if you communicate that your dissatisfaction with someone, doesn't that lead to problems? If I tell you what I don't like about you, doesn't that isn't that inherently going to upset you? I think so. Feelings of vulnerability, fear of confrontation, or losing control can all deter individuals from speaking out. But if your partner is unwilling to learn to communicate better, this could be a red flag. So you again, I mean, you'll talk and talk too much, and they'll talk and say things you don't understand, right? Um, I don't know. I don't know. It just sounds like the whole thing is a problem. Relationships as a whole are just being proven to be a problem because all this is already, I mean, just reading this article, I'm already trying to figure out how am I going to deal with all these 16 emotional, mental, physical, spiritual issues. And I'm already frustrated, but we're almost there. Bear your frustration with me a little bit longer. Number 15, lack of social connection or friends. Not everyone has a huge circle of friends. That's me. Some people simply find it harder to connect with others. I don't find it harder. I just find it frustrating. They could be dealing with social anxiety or shyness. Not me, just the frustration. But not having any friends or close friendships can be a red flag in a guy or girl. It might indicate a sign of low capacity to bond and connect with people in general. That's all good and dandy until your friends sleep with your girlfriend. That's enough of that. Number 16, love bombing. Love bombing, which was discussed earlier on, is another major warning sign. When someone showers you with excessive attention and affection right from the start, it can be a sign of manipulation, or they could be trying to get you to like and approve them, right? So if you're saying that you want a high status man who lives in a nice house, has a nice car, does a great job that he doesn't have to do every day so he can spend those days with you, right? If all those things can exist and can play music and is good in sports and travels and reads and is single but doesn't have kids and runs a business that he doesn't have to be there every day, imagine that. Imagine that, right? If you find all this, apparently this is a sign of manipulation. But this is what relationships are. Healthy relationships grow at a mutual pace. No, they don't. And love bombing may later reveal manipulative or unhealthy intentions. People in relationships don't grow at the same pace. Like you could be growing mentally or emotionally, which is what many counterparts say to indicate that their careers and business lives have stagnated, so they'll grow spiritually instead. But if you are making a lot of money and being successful at your job and revered at your job, and the counterpart is pathetic, which many of them are, um, you know, this is absolutely a problem. This is going to be absolutely a problem. It's going to cause the previous problem of jealousy, right? So relationships and people in relationships, they don't grow at the same pace and not at the same amount. This type of behavior, it concludes, can quickly turn into controlling behavior once the initial phase is over. So I'm not going to repeat myself over and over. I think I've made my opinion clear all throughout this article, in that effectively, to conclude, relationships in themselves are red flags because all 16 of these behaviors, all 16 from the love bombing right at the beginning to the negligence right at the end, right? So these are, in fact, the different stages and phases that you will go through when you are in the romance war, right? So this is just preparing you for what you're going into. And if again you're a bachelor, you're single, you start to feel the existentialism of the bachelor life, feeling like you're living the same day over and over, the same wonderful, magnificent day, I want you to, consider these details. Consider the information that we've just talked about here. And you're going to go out and try and find a counterpart who doesn't exhibit any of these. And I'm telling you, you're not. This is not going to happen to you. You're going to experience more than half of these. You're going to experience more than half of these on any given day. Various degrees, various magnitudes, right? Various doses. And some might be the seeds for future conflict that you cannot foresee, right? So something might seem like an insignificant act now and come back later as a huge problem. This is how the counterpart works. They grow the seeds of destruction and they plant them and let them grow over time, right? But please consider, before you get into a relationship, consider these details. Get a vasectomy. Be grateful of the bachelor life. Be mindful. Be mindful of your solitude. Protect your seed and your commitment. Get a vasectomy. Get a vasectomy. This is the Ancient One with another heartfelt video. I really appreciate your attention, and I always will. Thank you, and have a nice day.